change much. The sun still rises, even with the pain. Tell you one thing, ain't gonna change, love. The sun still rises, even through the rain.
We're going to get some entertainment while we wait. It is 1:30. So in my language, we normally say umfundisi ulindwa ngeculo. Directly translated, when you wait for the minister of the predicant, you do so through hymns. Now, who exactly the minister is in this context, I don't know, but we are certainly going to be entertained by some glorious choral music before we begin. So, without further ado, let us please give our choir a warm round of applause, Ithemba Youth Choir. And let's see the stuff they are made of. And you are allowed to get up and dance and jive and warm yourself up. The weather's not playing ball, and we're going to try and defeat it today.
Hello. Sanbonani dongeni saphila nje. Ebakithi sanbonani. Ololo ololo sanbonani. Ololo ololo sanbonani. Ololo ololo ni saphila nje. Sanbonani. Ebakithi sanbonani. Ololo ololo sanbonani. Ololo ololo sanbonani. Ololo ololo ni saphila nje. Sangena thina siphume eMzantsi Afrika. Sangena thina siphume eMzantsi Afrika. Sangena thina siphume eMzantsi Afrika. Sangena thina siphume eMzantsi Ngayibuka ngayithanda.
Ngayibuka ngayithanda. Kanti vele nothando lwami. Ngayibuka ngayithanda. Kanti vele nothando lwami.
Ukuqala kwami ukumbona.
Ukuqala kwami wayifaka ishati nesitobhe. Ukuqala kwami ukumbona. Wayifaka ishati nesitobhe.
Ukuqala kwami ukumbona.
Ukuqala kwami ukumbona. Wayemuhle njengegolide. Ukuqala kwami ukumbona. Wayemuhle njengegolide. Sithanda insizwa, sihamba naye. Sithanda insizwa, sihamba naye. Sithanda insizwa, sihamba naye. Shona, shona malanga shona. Shona, shona malanga shona. Shona, shona malanga
Stand up, everybody, stand up, please. Everybody, stand up. Everybody, stand up, please. Everybody, stand up, please. Halala, 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 halala. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause to Ithemba Youth Choir. Is everybody warm? Is everybody warm? Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is 8:45. I have been instructed by my principal, who is going to give me my instructions for the whole day today, Dr. Marna Lorenz, to begin. And it is indeed my sincerest honor and privilege to therefore officiate at the 6th Social Justice Summit, the theme being social justice and the sustainable development goal of zero hunger, today, the 18th of October. My name is Nqaba Mabece. I come from the Eastern Cape, based in Gauteng, Pretoria, stroke Johannesburg. I'm a lawyer by profession, but I really take great pride in being a radio broadcaster, where my passion really comes from. Today, we shall officially begin by the singing of the national anthem by Ithemba Youth Choir. Immediately after, they will take their leave, and we shall have three beautiful young people to read the preamble to the Constitution in the three official languages of the Western Cape province, as well as the University of Stellenbosch. After which, we're going to ask Dr. Leroux from the Artscape to come and make a brief announcement in line with the theme of our society. And then we shall then begin with the official welcoming remarks by the director of the Center for Social Justice here at Stellenbosch University, somebody we all love, somebody we all honor, somebody we all appreciate, Professor Thuli Madonsela, who needs beyond that no other introduction. So with your leave, may I request that we all please stand for the singing of the national anthem. And please sing along to the national anthem. Siyabulela kakhulu bantwana bahle abatsholoze kamnandi inene namhlanje natsho nahlaziya navuselela le nginginya besiyiyo namhlanje nangona sigutyungelwe yingqele. Siyabulela bethuna maze nethole nangamso. Please may I call on stage Abenati Nchocho from Ikaya Primary School, grade 6 learner. May I also please call up Danielle Takis from Beaumont Primary School, grade 7 learner, as well as Christopher Kutsia Malherbe from Parel Valley Word School, grade 8, who respectively will be reading the isiXhosa, English, and Afrikaans versions of the preamble, after which I'll ask Dr. Leroux from the Artscape to come on stage and offer remarks as well. To the young people, thank you so much for joining us. You look amazing. We appreciate your being here, and thank you for honoring this most important project and leading conversations today on social justice. Abenati, ungafunda, hleka zomhle.
Good morning. Today I'm here to read in Xhosa version. Thina bantu baseMzantsi Afrika siyaziqonda iintswela bulungisa zexesha elidlulileyo sibothule unqwazi abo baye beva ubunzima ukuze kubekho ubulungisa nenkululeko elizweni lethu. Siyabahlonela abo baye basebenzela ukwakha nokuphucula ilizwe lethu. Kwaye sikholelwa kwelokuba uMzantsi Afrika ngowabo bonke abahlali kuwo bemanyene nangona bengafani. Ngoko ke ngabameli bethu abanyulwe ngokukhululekileyo samkela lo mgaqo siseko njengomthetho owongamileyo weRiphabhliki. Ukuze kungcibeke imisansa yexesha elidlulileyo kwakhe noluntu lwentando namalungelo oluntu asisiseko. Kwandlalwe iziseko zoluntu lwentando yesininzi nolukhululekileyo apho urhulumente engowentando yabantu kwaye umi ngamnye ekhuselwe ngomthetho ngokulinganayo nabanye. Kuphuculwe umgangatho wobomi wabo bonke abemi. Kukhululwe nomntu ngamnye afikelele kwelona nqanaba anokufikelela kulo lobuchule bakhe. Kananjalo kwakhiwe uMzantsi Afrika omanyeneyo wentando yesininzi okwaziyo ukuthabatha indawo yawo onelungelo layo njengelizwe elizimeleyo kusapho phakathi kwamanye amazwe. Ngamana uThixo angabakhuseli abantu bakowethu. Nkosi sikeleli Afrika, Morena buruka setjhaba sa heso. God send Africa. God bless South Africa. Mudzimu fatsutshetsa Africa. Hosi katekisa Africa. Nkosi.
Good morning. I'll be reading the English version. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We, therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. And build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Thank you.
Goeiemôre. Ons, die mense van Suid-Afrika, erken die onreggerechtighede van ons verlede. Huldig diegene wat vir geregtigheid en vryheid in ons land gelei het. Respekteer diegene wat hulle beywer het om ons land op te bou en te ontwikkel. En glo dat Suid-Afrika behoort aan almal wat daarin woon, verenig in ons verskeidenheid. Daarom neem ons deur ons vrye verkose verteenwoordigers hierdie grondwet aan as die hoogste reg van die Republiek ten einde die verdeeldheid van die verlede te heel en 'n samelewing gegrond op die demokratiese waardes, maatskaplike geregtigheid en basiese menseregte te skep. Die grondslag te lê vir 'n demokratiese en oop samelewing waarin regering gegrondves is op die wil van die bevolking en elke burger gelyk deur die reg beskerm word. Die lewensgehalte van alle burgers te verhoog en die potensiaal van elke mens te ontsluit. en 'n verenigde en demokratiese Suid-Afrika te bou, wat sy regmatige plek as 'n soewereine staat in die gemeenskap van nasies kan inneem. Mag God ons mense beskerm. Nkosi Sikeleli, i-Afrika, Morena Boloko, Sichaba Saesu. God seën Suid-Afrika. God bless South Africa. Mudzimu Fatuchedza Afrika. Hosi Katekiza Afrika.
Thank you, young people. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As they make their way off stage, let's give them a wonderful round of applause. I can absolutely guarantee you, without any fear of contradiction, I would never, ever, that young, have done what these young people have done. The courage is tremendous and to be acknowledged. Dr. Marlene Leroux, please, ma'am, come forward and offer us your brief remarks. And whilst that is taking place, we must again underscore the value of the relationship the Artscape has with the Center for Social Justice. Stellenbosch doesn't really have to receive invoices and make payments to this wonderful venue. Isn't
Don't say that the
just
board is
amazing?
going to get me. Don't say that. My crutches quickly. I think it's just a moment of silence that we need to start our day with. We always start at the Multicultural Humanities Center, which we call Artscape, with a moment of silence. To Mamina, to Mamina, to Mamina, Inkosia, to Mamina, to Mamina, to Mamina, to Mamina, Inkosia. And today we start Professor Thuli Madonsela, for your vision, for your courage, for your bravery, to every single year to have this conference. And when you leave this conference today, none of us will leave it with not having an emotion. And that is the importance of yesterday and today. Today, our special welcome also, and the welcome will be done. Professor Wim de Villiers, thank you for gracing us. And also a special thank you from the arts communities for your support that you have given to the arts during your time of being the rector of Stellenbosch University. I think he needs an applause as well. Thank you. To the Dean, a special welcome to you. But the reason why I'm standing here is, number one, to make an announcement. If you would like to come and see Magic Box, please go during interval, during your lunchtime, at box office downstairs. You can't bring the entire extended family. Already I'm bankrupt here. The arts doesn't get money. But because it's Professor Thuli, we also want you to experience the soul of a country is the arts. The arts is still on the agenda, very low on the agenda. That is why our message is arts for artists. And that artists needs to be seen as professionals and really must be seen as the pinnacle of a society. It is not just sports or rugby players. Their particular faces should be on all the poles because they are the mirrors and the reflections of our society. Hence, it's important that it is here, that social justice is here in this particular space. So it's more than just performance. It is about critical thinkers. It is about developing writers. It is about the reflections of our society, imagination, what we want to become. That's why I started today with Tuma Mima. It's about what we want to become, the possibilities that the arts open, and the imagination, what we want to be, and the reality. Hence, the second thing I want to ask you. ASCAP has embarked with a lot of NGOs, and our campaign is Step Up for Change. Every single year, our pandemic is rising, and that is about gender-based violence. Please, we will bring up today Why a Woman. And this is a non-gender, and it's about gender-based violence. Please write down your message so that it's not just become every single day and every single year that this reflection is only on the 9th of August or 16 days of activism. We should change the mindset of our society, our behavioral, our cultural practices, our churches, our mosques, how we're looking at and our children in our homes. And this is what the Social Justice Summit is about. So the action we're asking you, because during 16 days of activism, we would like to show government with all these pledges that's been made now from August, from the 9th of July, and say the people have spoken. The time is gone that we need to be complacent and that our women and children are dying at the hands of our loved ones. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leroux. A very important message, and it can never be overstated that we need as a nation to move beyond the rhetoric and get into action and create the necessary positive outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, just some housekeeping, please. The program is due to start officially at 8:55 by me welcoming Professor Thuli Madonsela to come on stage. The time right now is 9:03, so we're only 8 minutes behind schedule, and we will recover it. Perhaps I should say this. We are 7 hours and 42 minutes before we are kicked out of this venue. There is a show at 17 hours, and they need at least 20 minutes to set up. The only latitude for time that I have is the 30-minute tea interval, the 30-minute lunch break, and the 15-minute interval. That's 1 hour, 15 minutes. Where necessary, I will eat into that first. But I know you are all a good sport and good crowd. Your 5 minutes will be your 5 minutes. Your 8 minutes will be your 8 minutes. Your 10 minutes will be your 10 minutes. Of course, yesterday, the technical team started a convention that I kind of like. When somebody was going on a bit longer, they started playing music, and I thought, my goodness, that's an ingenious way to control time. They have told me, this is not me, they have told me they will do the same thing because they've got another gig later on today. So I think the point has been made clear. If we all just look at the program and try and mirror the program in what we do, we will all be just fine. Without further ado, let us please welcome Professor Thuli Madonsela. She is our host.
Thank you, Program Director Ngaba. Greetings, esteemed guests, honored dignitaries, and the leadership of Stellenbosch University, headed by the Vice Chancellor and Rector, Professor Wim de Villiers. It is truly an honor and privilege to say a few remarks before we get a proper welcoming address from our Vice Chancellor. In Grootboom, a case of our Constitutional Court, the full name being Government of the Republic of South Africa versus Grootboom, Justice Yaqub, with everyone concurring, said the following: the preamble of South Africa, the people of South Africa are committed to the attainment of social justice and the improvement of the quality of life for everyone. The preamble to our Constitution records this commitment. The Constitution declares the founding values of our society to be human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms. He then goes on to talk about that case. It was a case about the provision of housing, but he did link the right to housing to the right to land, the right to property, and freedom from all of the shackles of our past. At the level of government, you will see in front of me the words of the first president in democratic South Africa, Nelson Mandela, where he said, "We do not want freedom without bread, nor do we want bread without freedom. We must provide for all the fundamental rights and freedoms associated with a democratic society." Yesterday and the day before, we heard that it is possible to achieve a socially just world and to achieve a socially just society. We also heard that hunger is a basic need that must be addressed before other things can be addressed. We also heard that from an Ubuntu perspective and a social justice perspective, we harm our society, the bonds that bind us in our commonwealth, when we let others languish in hunger. And that the harm we inflict on ourselves is not that is in the form of conflict or crime. That harm also affects our ability to develop sustainably, which includes having a vibrant economy that serves not just us now, but serves future generations. The harm we inflict on ourselves by letting others stay hungry also include impact on the environment. We were also told that war is one of the drivers of hunger, and yet hunger is one of the drivers of conflict, including war. It is accordingly a huge privilege and honor to introduce to you a person who belongs to a profession that, when I was doing my first law degree at the University of now Eswatini, people from his profession didn't care about what's happening in the rest of society, not realizing that they belong to society too, and if society is going down, they too will go down. They also didn't understand that the patients that came before them could only heal properly if an integrated approach was adopted, which includes eliminating the conditions, for example, that lead to the stress, that leads to some of the physiological challenges, eliminating the challenges in society that drive mental health. My honor and privilege is to introduce the Vice Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. But before I do that, let me just recognize all the partners that have made this possible. Of course, the Dean of Law, Professor Nicola de Villiers, has been part of the driving force behind what we're doing. The presidency, led by the Department of Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation, Mr. Mashamba has been driving what we have been doing or helping to drive what we've been doing, hence more enthusiasm in society. The United Nations has been very instrumental in giving us the social capital that we've needed to highlight zero hunger and the right to food. Human Rights Commission has joined the party, and many, many others, including the National Youth Development Agency. We also have been supported by the DSI NRF Center for Excellence in Food Security, the Southern Africa Food Lab, and of course, Dr. Malin Leroux, Artscape, that has been a partner for a long time. Daily Maverick has supported this not just now, for a long period, and they also are doing their own food justice initiatives, and Woolworths has made sure we have food. The Bertha Foundation has supported us, and Visit Stellenbosch has supported us. Professor Wim de Villiers has been Rector and Vice-Chancellor of Stellenbosch University since 2015. I know he got into a storm around moving too fast with transformation according to others, but because he believed in a just society, he stayed the course. He had been abroad for 2 decades. After graduating from Stellenbosch University with MBCHB, he went to Oxford for his PhD and then to America, where he studied at Harvard and held several senior positions at the University of Kentucky, including head of gastroenterology. He also became the administrative head of the Good Samaritan Hospital in the US. He was included in the publication of Best Doctors in America. You know how big that country is? Best Doctors in America. And when he came back here, as one of those who answered to the call to come and fix our country together, he became the Dean of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town, and then came back to the university where he started. What is not known is that the office that Professor Kino and I share in half used to be the office of his father, who was Dean of Law at Stellenbosch University. Perhaps that's why he's always working with us literally and figuratively, including working with us when we're raising funds for students under Action for Inclusion. At a global stage, he is the chairperson of the Finance and Investment Committee of Universities of South Africa, and until recently, he was a member of the executive of the Association of Commonwealth University, and it's truly an honor and privilege to introduce Prof. Wim de Villiers.
Thank you, Professor Thuli, and good morning to you all. It's a real pleasure to be here. So we heard from Marlene Leroux this morning, and she asked us to, when we leave this afternoon, to think of an emotion that we have experienced. So I must tell you that I've already experienced a range of emotions this morning. Listening to that wonderful Itemba Youth Choir, and the wonderful rendition of our national anthem. That was magnificent. And also the preamble read by the young learners there. So well done. And I must say the emotions are that it brings tears to my eyes, because it speaks to me of the incredible hope and hope that it engenders for the future of our country, this wonderful country that we all love. So it's a wonderful honor for me to welcome you all to the 6th Social Justice Summit. A very special word of welcome to all our esteemed speakers and panelists who have joined us for today's important talks. We are particularly proud to be hosting this event that highlights a crucial and urgent issue in the social justice landscape, namely hunger, the SDG 2, zero hunger. So as you've heard, I'm a gastroenterologist by training. So my formal title is a professor of digestive diseases and nutrition. So this is a very important topic to me as well. Now, gastroenterologists are also well known for making some very poor jokes. And I won't be making any jokes on this issue at all. It's much too important. But as Rector and Vice Chancellor of Stellenbosch University and as a higher education institution, we play a pivotal role in addressing systemic injustices that persist in our society. And our responsibility goes far beyond teaching and learning. It extends to being a force for social change. And Stellenbosch University is committed to making this impact. And we believe that fighting hunger, and especially among students, our students, is fundamental to building a just and equitable future. Because we clearly know now that hunger is not just a distant global challenge, it is an issue that affects many within our own community. Far too many of our students, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds, face the burden of food insecurity, and it undermines fundamentally their academic potential. So at Stellenbosch University, we've taken active steps to address this through initiatives such as on-campus food programs, partnerships with food banks, and support services. But this is not enough. We need more. Because alleviating hunger for our students is to ultimately to enable their success, their personal growth, and their future contributions to society. So at Stellenbosch University, we're also proud of the role our researchers play in understanding and tackling the root causes of hunger. Their work in food systems, nutrition, and social justice contributes directly to the global mission to meet Sustainable Development Goal, zero hunger. So I urge all of us here to continue innovating, collaborating, advocating for lasting solutions to student hunger and food insecurity. We must push for policies and systems that ensure access to nutritious food for all students. So let me reaffirm Stellenbosch University's commitment to being a leader in social justice and the fight against hunger. We believe that by addressing this issue head-on, thank you. By addressing this issue head-on, we can create a learning environment where all students have the opportunity to thrive academically, socially, and personally. So thank you so much for being part of this important summit. Thank you for your dedication to this mission. And together, we can work towards a future where no student has to study on an empty stomach and where the right to food is a reality for all. Thank you very much.
Clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice. 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that no one remains trapped in the circumstances of their birth. For too long, we failed to translate many of the promises we made to ourselves in the Constitution into reality. The Musa Plan seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands on deck. The Musa Plan is about leveraging data, ensuring that policies are not one size fits all, but tailored to the needs of all, including poor people, women, people with disabilities, children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a real threat to our democracy, the economy, and peace. The plan also focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation.
Thank you very, very much to Professors Madonsela and de Villiers. Watch this, we're ahead of time. Can you imagine, eh? I'm loving this, and nothing's going to change. During the course of the presentation of Professor Madonsela, let me tell you the story. The minister in the presidency walked in. The last time I saw the minister in the presidency was a fortnight back at an Adopt a School Foundation fundraiser. On that occasion, that minister was wearing school uniform. And I didn't realize it was the minister because I thought, oh, there are young people in this room and it's great and people are wearing uniform, until a closer inspection I realized, hang on, but that's the minister, and she's headed to sit towards the presidency's table. Anyway, I'm going to assume nothing has changed, Madam Minister, and that you are still the schoolgirl I saw a couple of weeks back, and you were late for school today. So, doesn't matter, you're still late for school. Everybody here knows me as the headmaster, and in keeping with the theme of that evening, when the headmaster says you've got 10 minutes to speak, interpret that as 8 minutes to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thankful to have representatives from high government office. What this simply means is this is taken seriously. The minister is here to offer her remarks as well. And by that, we should interpret it to mean that the president is invested in this, as is the rector of the university himself invested in this. So the conversations are not to be taken lightly. And with that said, all the speakers today, their biographies do appear in the booklet that you all would have had on your seats when you walked in. It is therefore my absolute pleasure to continue with the program as I call Dr. Babagano Amudu, the country head for Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. If you look at the bottom left of page 20, that is the kind gentleman's biography. And with that, may we all please give him a round of applause for his 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, senior government representatives in the UN family, the academia, civil society, representatives of the private sector, farmers here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly and respectively observed. Good morning. It is an honor to address you today at this Social Justice Summit on behalf of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. Over the past 2 days, we have managed to be engaged in vital discussions, sharing analytics and voices that underscore the urgent need to address Sustainable Development Goals number 2, which is eradication of hunger. Issues intricately linked to social justice and human dignity. I extend my gratitude to Professor Tuli Mondisela, the Director of the Center for Social Justice at the University of Stellenbosch, and her team for steering this summit and uniting us in our common mission. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the world is off track to meet the Sustainable Development Goals targets, especially 2.1 and 2.2, to end hunger, food insecurity, and all forms of malnutrition by the year 2030. And subsequently, Africa's 2025 Malabo commitments. Despite our continent being endowed with approximately 874 million hectares of land suitable for agricultural production, the persistent hunger and food insecurity affecting our people remain profoundly saddening. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to echo the words of Mr. Nelson Mandela. Our economic approach to food and its distribution reflects our basic moral value. The intersection of human rights and food security in South Africa is critical, yet systemic inequalities and historical injustices continue to hinder our land's ability to nourish the people. As mentioned in the past 2 days by multiple speakers, the Constitution of South Africa enshrines the right to food as part of the right to an adequate standard of living. Yet millions still face hunger and malnutrition. Recent statistics revealed a concerning reality. In 2023, approximately 1/4 of South Africa's population, which amounts to about 17.3 million people, experienced hunger, with 10.9% facing severe food insecurity. This is according to the statistics released by Statistics South Africa. Although these numbers are lower than 2 decades ago, they have been rising annually since 2019, with an estimated 15% of South Africa's population experiencing hunger. Over 1/4 of the households exhibit alarming complexities in accessing food. This is a troubling trend exacerbated by socio-economic disparities and legacy of appetite. South Africa's agri-food system, employing millions, is hindered by structural inefficiencies and historical inequalities. Inequalities in land distribution and access significantly obstructs equity, or rather equitable food distribution. Notably, 72% of farmland is controlled by white commercial farmers. Yes, 72%, representing only 8% of the population, according to the Land Audit of 2020. This inequality perpetuates cycles of poverty and hunger, particularly among marginalized communities. Smallholder farmers, essential to our food production, often lack access to markets, financial resources, and modern agricultural practices, perpetuating poverty and food insecurity. According to the FAO, small-scale farmers produce about 80% of the food consumed in sub-Saharan Africa, yet they struggle to access the necessary resources for success. South Africa also grapples with one of the highest levels of inequality globally, with a Gini coefficient of 0.63 as of 2023. Poverty was estimated as 62.6, just below its pandemic peak, according to the World Bank. This disparity severely limits access to nutritious food, forcing lower-income families to rely on cheaper, calorie-dense, yet nutrient-poor options. In this context, commercial food chains are often exacerbate the triple burden of malnutrition, characterized by undernutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, and overweight or obesity, prioritizing efficiency and profit over nutritional quality. To address the challenges hindering the realization of the right to food, we must adopt a multifaceted approach. First, investing in smallholder agriculture is crucial. Supporting our smallholder farmers through training, access to credit, market linkages, and social protection can significantly enhance production and improve food security. Promoting climate-smart agriculture through agroecological practices can improve soil health and resilience to climate change, as demonstrated in various studies. Strengthening social protection systems is vital. Expanding measures such as homegrown school feeding programs and instruments is crucial for equitable food systems. Inclusive policy reform must prioritize marginalized groups with gender-responsive policies leading to a better food security outcomes for women and their families. As I conclude, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I urge all stakeholders, policymakers, activists, business leaders, and citizens to join us in this essential endeavor. The fight against hunger is not only about food, it is a fight for dignity, equity, and justice. Together, let us ensure that no one in South Africa goes to bed hungry. The right to food is not just a legal obligation, it is a test of our humanity that we must uphold for the sake of all. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, is dedicated, or remains dedicated, to building sustainable agri-food system anchored on our vision of 4 betters: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life for all, towards more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems in South Africa, having no one behind. Thank you very much.
For so long as I keep wearing the smile that I do, just know that everything is going swimmingly. What's your time there, guys? Tell me what your time is there. We're doing well for time. I really do appreciate that. And thank you for the message, Doc. Thank you for reminding us where we come from. Thank you for helping us understand our context, which in many respects outlines the work ahead for each and every single one of us. Each of us have an obligation to ensure that we meet the obligation that is imposed on us by SDG 2, that of zero hunger. We do have the Deputy Minister of Energy and Electricity, who is joining us virtually this morning, Madam Samantha Jane Graham-Murray. If the technical team could please flight the Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. You join us at a time where most Cape Townians outside are cold, but we don't feel any of that cold because the Itemba Youth Choir made sure that they increased the degrees of temperatures in this room by at least 10 degrees. So rest assured, we are very warm where we are. We hope the same is true for you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your remarks, albeit on the virtual platform. Deputy Minister.
Thank you so very much. My fellow humanitarians, it is a singular honor for me to be part of this event today, albeit that work commitments have precluded me from being there in person. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to Professor Thuli Madonsela for her kind invitation to participate on such an important topic. While many of you may regard me as a mere politician, I'm actually, like most of you, an activist. I began my career in politics because I believed that politics would give me the platform to be able to advocate for and bring about political and social change. I started my political career in a small town in the Eastern Cape called Aberdeen. It was there that I became aware of the high levels of poverty and unemployment facing rural South Africans. And I knew that I had a voice big enough and loud enough to speak for those who were unable to speak for themselves. It remains my driving force and my most important motivator. We all share a love of our beautiful country. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. But even more importantly, we are passionate about our people. And with that passion comes the responsibility of ensuring that we do everything possible to support and uplift those South Africans who cannot do it for themselves. Poverty remains the biggest single threat to our country. According to a report published by Statista, 18.2 million people in South Africa live below the international absolute poverty threshold. That is just less than 1/3 of our population. And our country also has the highest income Gini coefficient in the world, demonstrating extreme income inequality. In addition to the high levels of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, South Africa has just suffered the worst cycle of load shedding in its history. The impact of rolling blackouts has been a contributor to an economy that has been in decline for several years. And the greatest impact of load shedding, coupled with unemployment, inequality, and poverty, has been the loss of dignity for so many of our people. There is no dignity in hunger. There's no dignity in darkness. There's no dignity without the essential services that depend on electricity. There is no dignity in unemployment. So if we're going to address poverty in this country, we have to address the energy crisis. And in so doing, we have to look at the nexus between energy and food and to acknowledge the interdependence of energy security and food security. And to achieve both, you need to focus on what we believe are the 3 key A's: affordability, accessibility, and availability. 685 million people worldwide do not have access to electricity. Of those, 600 million live in Africa. The penetration of electrification in South Africa is substantially higher than that of the rest of Africa, although the likelihood of us achieving 100% access to traditional electricity is slim. However, we must continue to ensure that universal access to energy remains a priority and so becomes a norm and not a privilege. Affordability remains a challenge. Poor management of electrical infrastructure, corruption, expansion of the grid, and a myriad other factors have contributed to the need to increase the cost of electricity. We have experienced a 700% increase in electricity prices in the past 10 years. It is becoming unsustainable and unaffordable, and energy poverty is growing. People are finding themselves having to choose between buying food or buying power. The final A, availability, has been something we've been acutely aware of over the past years of load shedding. And now with load reduction, which is a reality in many areas where lack of maintenance, coupled with electricity theft, is placing electricity infrastructure under pressure to the extent that Eskom is forced to cut electricity to protect its infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, while we may celebrate over 200 days without load shedding, we cannot take this for granted. Aging electrical infrastructure, growing demand, and the need to decommission coal-fired power plants over the coming years will continue to constrain our system, which is why we need to remain focused on our goal of net zero by 2050. We must all acknowledge that our fossil fuel-based energy mix needs to transition to clean energy. We must, however, ensure that not only must the transition be done at a pace and scale that we can afford as a country, it must, more importantly, be a people-centered energy transition that is just. To tackle energy poverty, food poverty, unemployment, and the rising cost of living, we need to focus on providing cheap energy to all South Africans, as this forms one of the most critical input costs to economic activity, such as agricultural production. If commercial farmers are struggling with these costs, then poor subsistence farmers, who are typically women, are hit even harder. And it's not just at the production level. It's at all stages of the food value chain that we are impacted. The undeniable fact is that renewable energy is the cheapest energy source out there, and we are endowed with some of the best resources in the world to drive renewable energy production. It also has the least impact on our soil, water, and air quality, which are key to food production. Renewables offer the greatest opportunities for affordable, available, and accessible energy supply to rural agriculture. This can help to boost production, reduce losses, recycle waste, and ultimately power the potential of the agricultural sector. In particular, I'd like to highlight women's role in agriculture and food systems, where women make up over 40% of the agricultural labor force in developing countries. Yet they continue to face systemic barriers to land ownership and access to resources. We also cannot ignore women's role in food production in particular, where poor women who lack access to safe and clean fuel. In a study conducted by the World Bank, it was stated that indoor air pollution, attributable in the main to the use of polluting fuels for cooking, causes more than 4 million premature deaths every year, of which 50% are children under the age of 5. In an age of abundant renewable energy and clean technology, how are we allowing this to happen? Why are we not doing more to protect our most vulnerable people? I'm proud to announce that in 2025, when South Africa chairs the G20, one of my priorities will be a focus on safe and clean cooking. The solutions exist, and we will collaborate with other countries such as Brazil and India to find the best solutions for implementation in our country to tackle this massive problem. Another key technology that South Africa is going to pursue as part of the just energy transition is green hydrogen. Powered by renewable energy, green hydrogen is key to producing green ammonia, which in turn can produce green fertilizer. South Africa currently imports most of its fertilizer, much of which is from fossil fuel sources, and is one of the many rising input costs that is hurting farmers. We have an opportunity to decarbonize a key hard-to-abate sector while producing cheaper, cleaner fertilizer for our farmers and creating thousands of jobs in the renewable energy sector, which feeds into the green hydrogen production. We also have to look at waste differently. Biodigesters at our wastewater treatment works can keep these critical plants online during power outages, reduce the load on already strained facilities, contribute to cleaner water, produce fertilizer for farmers, and produce biogas for safe and clean cooking. This is uncomplicated technology that has been proven and can be rolled out at scale. Biomass is a key renewable energy source that cannot be ignored in the just energy transition. Finally, we have to continue to drive energy efficiency in agriculture and food systems in order to drive costs down, reduce waste, and increase productivity. By doing this, we will be addressing both the challenges of energy poverty and food poverty. This requires a mix of political will, innovation, and a commitment to implementation. I'm here today to tell you that I bring those elements and more to my role as Deputy Minister. My office is committed to finding innovative and sustainable solutions for energy in the commercial, formal, and informal agricultural sectors, both to secure local production of food, but also to insulate our export producers against the risk of carbon taxes in the near future. My fellow South Africans, government cannot do this alone. To effectively tackle energy and food poverty, we need a whole-of-society approach. That's everyone in this room. Strong public-private partnerships are needed to find and implement solutions that work. Our challenges are great, but it is in the face of great challenges that human resilience truly shines and achieves the impossible. Creating sustainable energy solutions that enhance food security, especially for women in those rural areas, can be transformative. Once again, I'm sorry that I can't be with you all in person today to hear these solutions, especially around the partnerships that are being forged across political, economic, and social lines. These can deliver the policies, programs, ideas, resources, and action plans that are necessary to achieve the goals of SDG 2 in realizing zero hunger and placing human dignity and social justice at the heart of the conversation. But I wish to extend an invitation to you all to share your ideas for solving issues around the energy and food nexus with my office in order for us to be part of not only the conversation, but also the implementation of the solutions. Only by sharing resources, best practice, and innovation will we be able to address the problems and arrest the growing energy and food poverty facing South Africans. Thank you for this opportunity.
Deputy Minister, thank you very, very much. We appreciate your contributions, and we certainly appreciate your offering and availing the office to receive some of the outcomes of these last 2 to 3 days of dialogue. And more importantly, we see you as a partner going forward of the Center for Social Justice, particularly some of the programs it does in between the keynote events of the kind for which we are convened this evening. Thank you so much, ma'am. We certainly do appreciate your time and enjoy your day further. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to the room, and it certainly is my honor and privilege to welcome on stage colleague to Deputy Minister Samantha Graham-Maree, one of the more experienced ministers, I would tell you, in our government. I mean, she's not new at all to the space. She's previously held, among others, small business development, as well as communications. She's not new even to the presidency. So, Menjabeni, thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here, it really is. And perhaps you might steal from the chief's iPad and tell us what he really thinks about the conversations around food security and lend us some insights into exactly what plans for government are. If the charge is that everybody in this room has an obligation to ensure that there is an achievement of zero hunger, then we might do well to understand exactly what the vision is coming from the highest office in the country. So, ma'am, please come up on stage and share some of the thoughts of the Office of the Presidency through you.
It has to drop this thing. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to move from one device to another, and I guess it's a Friday morning. Good morning. So, Headmaster Ngaba, Program Director. As a student and a matriculant, you are told, you know, it's exam time. We are not doing classes normal routine. So you are told to arrive at a particular time because that's when your exam starts. So because I was I'm going to write a biology, physical science, and maths there, and some agric. We didn't call it agriculture, call it agric. They said I must be here at 9. And for all my sins, I was almost here at 8:30, and I was telling my team that but when I walked in, I found the prof speaking. Imagine how I felt. And when you remember, I'm wearing my chief prefect jacket. But it's great to see you again. Professor Wim de Villiers, the Rector and VC of the University of Stellenbosch, I must disclose, you are one of my role models. Your bravery is very applaudable for some of us. It's very few men who dare trod where you are treading. Professor Thulima Donsala, the Director for the Center for Social Justice, great honor to be invited here. Dr. Amadou of the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I'd known, and I realized when you deal with academics, they don't do the protocols. I wanted to stand on the protocols already established, and I'm lucky the DM is off the platform, so I'll watch the protocols as I go along. It is a great honor that I'm invited to speak here, and I must extend the apologies of my other colleague, Minister Lamola of International Relations, who also wanted to be here. But we had to do division of labor and said between the two of us who's going, and I said, I'm going, me. And then 2 weeks ago, they scheduled a special cabinet to deal with the budget. Remember, we're preparing for the medium-term budget policy statement and the finalization of the MDTP, the medium-term development plan. And then it's scheduled for this morning at 8 o'clock. So Ngaba, you're correct, the president takes this seriously. So I said to him, Mr. President, I know I'm responsible for cabinet, but the timing was just coincidental. May I be excused to start at this summit because the Social Justice Summit and the issues they're discussing are important to our country. He said, you are duly released, and I will then join later. So that's why when I finish speaking, Headmaster, I'll have to exit so that I can catch a flight back to Johannesburg. And I'm one of those who are very happy that we are ahead of time because then I won't miss my flight. We are discussing a matter of profound importance, the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 2 on zero hunger in South Africa and in the world, if I may say. This goal is not merely a statistic. It represents the hope, dignity, and future of millions of our citizens. It is a pressing global challenge as governments and civil society alike, including academia, are confronted with the need to ensure a sustainable food security for all. As our population grows and climate change intensifies, the agency of food security cannot be overstated. Sustainable food security is not about just about having enough food. It's about access, it's about quality of the food, it's about the ability to produce food without compromising the needs of future generations. Hunger on its own is a multifaceted challenge that affects our economy, our health system, and our social fabric in general. In a nation as rich in resources as ours, it is unacceptable that millions of South Africans still face food insecurity. And therefore, we must confront this reality with the agency and determination. Professor Amadou spoke about the statistics of hunger relevant to our country, and I will not want to repeat that. Therefore, to achieve zero hunger, we must first enhance not only our agricultural productivity, but we must ensure equitable access to land, but also to nutritious food. This involves investing in sustainable agricultural practices, empowering smallholder farmers, and promoting local food systems. But as Amas indicated to the Food and Agricultural Organization, South Africa is on track to meet its land redistribution target by 2030, at least that one. And it's not us saying that. We quote Wandile Slobo, who has been doing magnificent work in the Agricultural Center. So we are on track in terms of the targets we set ourselves and the challenges that confront our people. And we accept that by supporting our farmers, we can boost food production and create jobs, fostering both economic growth and community resilience. Therefore, we must promote sustainable farming methods that enhance productivity while protecting our natural resources. Practices like crop rotation, agroforestry, and organic farming can increase resilience against climate change and reduce the reliance on chemical inputs. Supporting smallholder farmers through training and access to technology can empower communities and boost local food production. It is therefore important and significant that universities like Stellenbosch are deeply involved in this initiative. It will be important for us in government to explore opportunities to extend the awareness communities together with the university in the deep rural areas of our country that are daily confronted with food insecurity. This week, in one of the cabinet committees, and I'm not going to get you in trouble and be witnesses for me disclosing cabinet decisions before cabinet takes the decisions. But in one of the cabinet committees, we were confronted with a submission that brought into real sense the extent of our food insecurity challenge, not only for the immediate, but also for future generation. Interestingly, it was not a submission from the Department of Land or Department of Agriculture. It was a submission from the Department of Environment. In terms of that, South Africa has 91%, its land is 91% dry land, or 91% of South Africa's land is going to be dry land. You may think of it as an environmental issue, but it has implications not only for land, but for food security. Now I understand why the villages in Limpopo and Bembe are experiencing drought. I'm sure you've seen the images on television because we have dry land, so we're not able to retain enough water underground that even in the slightest of droughts, we can have resilience in production. And that for me was telling, and when that penny dropped, we then agreed that we have to have a dedicated relook on how do we build not only food security resilience, but drought resilience. and why land preservation is more important for this country. Because that impacts the ability for South Africans to have access to food. And as government in 2014, we introduced the National Policy on Food and Nutrition Security. And this was followed by the National Food and Nutrition Security Implementation Plan of 2018 to 2024. We are currently working through the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, a plan that will cover 2024 to 2030, because that is the ultimate year for Vision 2030. That plan must involve the participation of all stakeholders, not only in drafting the plan, but also in executing the plan because of the challenges that confront our nation. Our policy approach to zero hunger acknowledges the lingering consequences of apartheid, which has left deeply rooted inequalities in terms of access to land, the income levels, employment, and other economic opportunities. We are now faced with newer challenges of population growth that is more rapid than what the statistician had anticipated, and therefore the planning cycle and the budgeting cycle is drastically impacted. We are also confronted with the rising cost of essential and basic food in our, and not only food, but also essential commodities like fuel, electricity, and water. And the climate change is exacerbating this problem. Thus, addressing hunger demands a systematic intervention that go beyond merely providing food. It also touches on issues of social justice. And therefore, the agendas cannot be separated. They must continue to be interlinked. And therefore, as government, we are very much interested in the outcomes of this summit and the concrete action plans that are proposed. But for us, education is also an important factor and must play a crucial role in addressing food insecurity, both for the immediate and future generation. We must educate our communities about land preservation and the strengthening of local food systems. Communities should be encouraged to support local food markets and food cooperatives, but also to establish their own food cooperatives. Local food systems can be more responsive to the needs of communities and provide fresh, nutritious food to those who need it most. This will foster economic resilience and food sovereignty. And the partnership with academia and the private sector and civil society in general becomes very important in that matter, because we are also looking for innovative solutions such as urban farming and food waste reduction initiative, so that we can provide not only immediate relief, but also contribute to long-term sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, we must also invest in research and innovation. And for us, that's why the universities like Stellenbosch and this initiative that is anchored by the universities are important. Because developing sustainable agricultural technologies such as drought-resistant crops and precision farming techniques can help adapt to changing conditions. Both public and private sectors must collaborate to ensure that there is innovations that are accessible to all, particularly for the poorer provinces and the rural communities. And I say the importance of research and the collaboration with universities is because if you look at the budgeting system of government, we continue to reduce the allocation for research and development. And therefore, we'll have to rely on universities and other academic institutions and private sectors to contribute to that research. And I've come to understand that investment in research and development through collaborations with institutions of higher learning is cheaper than a government-driven university in innovations on our law. But I've also learned when doing my own studies, I won't disclose because I don't want Prof. Madonsela to ask when am I completing my other studies. So I'm not disclosing what I'm studying. I've realized that the universities on their own, they cannot contribute to the body of knowledge without collaboration with governments who are responsible for policy and implementation and rollout in the countries. So we really appreciate the involvement of the University of Stellenbosch in this part, and we look forward to a strengthened partnership as we deal with food insecurity in our country for sustainable food security and zero hunger. I know we've missed the target of achieving zero hunger, but it's one of those targets that we think by 2030, our country must be solidly on course to achieve the cause of zero hunger. Thank you very much.
Keep clapping, everybody. That's the presidency that was represented there. This is my dean, needs no introduction, is already on stage, so Professor Nicholas Smit, take it away. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We're doing well. Let's just give Professor Nicholas Smit final opportunity before we end this formal first session. Also, we don't want the minister and the presidency to miss a flight now.
Good morning, everyone. It really is a pleasure for me to be here in this beautiful and soulful artscape. It's much better than my office. I would venture to say that the scholars would also agree with me with regards to attending school or being here. I've been here since yesterday, and I've seen this banner behind us, the Magic Box. And I must say that I think the Magic Box produced a magical session this morning. Not only because we are more or less on time, but also because we were so fortunate to be addressed by such knowledgeable individuals, and more important perhaps, people who are influential and who are decision makers. Because that is what is really, really important when we talk about goals such as eliminating hunger. I have 3 tasks in my brief, but for the interest of time, I will rephrase my own brief, and I hope Marna will allow me to do thank yous and to make some final remarks, and I'm not going to try and recap the addresses that we had. Our presentations were very on point, very clear, and I think that the high notes will be fine without me trying to recap it. So I wish to extend our sincere thanks for our speakers, Dr. Amadou, the Honourable Deputy Minister Graham, the Honourable Minister Njaveni, Professor Mandosela, my boss, Professor de Villiers, the Itemba Youth Choir, and very specifically also our young people, the future of this country. I wish to acknowledge that the keynote speakers' expertise and contributions in providing very critical perspectives on the intersections of hunger, food security, and the broader development agenda have really benefited this summit. It certainly sets the foundation for a very successful and meaningful conversation to follow. So, without summarizing what we have heard now, I want to go directly to a call for action. I want us to wind up this first session and go into tea by reflecting on the insights shared by our speakers, and to think about how you can apply these insights to your own work and context. Secondly, I think it's important for us to have a reaffirmation of the urgency of acting on SDG 2 and the importance of continued collaboration between global organizations like the FAO, national governments, civil society, and local communities to make tangible progress towards ending hunger. And then thirdly, let's also record the importance of political will, but also of resources and innovation in tackling hunger. And remember that achieving SDG 2 will require us to continue to collaborate and to have partnerships across many different sectors. So today's keynote addresses have reminded us, I would say, of the complex and the interconnected nature of hunger, energy, and social justice. They have perfectly aligned with the theme of this summit. So let us continue to build on these insights as we move forward in our discussions, and most importantly, as we translate them into concrete actions, let us help all of us to bring us closer to achieving zero hunger by 2030. I thank you, Program Director. I think we have made up as best as we could, and I think that we can now go into tea time, and I understand that you will describe and set out the procedures for the session.
We have done
thereafter.
incredibly well. Give yourselves, everybody, a round of applause. Prof. Nicola, if I can ask you to please come on, stay in front. Prof. de Villiers, Dr. Amadou, please come on stage. We have some beautiful gifts to hand over. May I ask that Professor de Villiers hands over to the representative from the FAO the wonderful gifts, which are expressions and tokens of appreciation from Stellenbosch University to our guests for their wonderful contributions. There we go, Prof. Keep going to Professor Smith. Could we also have the young people who read out the preambles to the Constitution coming up on stage, please? Professor de Villiers, can I give you one, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
May we have a picture moment with the ladies and gentlemen on stage, please, especially the young people. I mean, this is an important photograph, an inspirational one at that. And we missed the minister by literally 2 minutes, So that's the value of time. 2 minutes can change everything, and it would have been a wonderful photo moment for the young people to have with the minister and the presidency. But all the same, we have done incredibly well for time. I respect every speaker for honoring the platform and just conducting what has been a very dignified morning so far. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the group photo. Yesterday was like herding cats. Today is not going to be like that. Literally the staircase going down here. That's where everybody must please assemble for the group photo. Marna? You keep pointing somewhere else. Okay, I beg your pardon, not down there. The group photo is taking place over there. Just get up very kindly, leave your bags wherever they might be for a group photo to your left, my right. Final comment, please. The time is 10 minutes after 10. Let us please be seated at 25 past 10. That's 15 minutes from now. Thank you very much.
Despite a clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice, 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that
Let's
no
move
one
swiftly
remains
along to where the
trapped
photograph is to be
in the
taken, please.
circumstances of their birth.
Per
For
direction
too
of
long,
the
we failed to
photographers.
translate many of the promises
Everybody in
we
the
made
room,
to
please
ourselves
move in the general
in the
direction of where
Constitution into
the
reality.
photograph
The
is
Musa
being
Plan
taken.
seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands on deck. The Musa Plan is about leveraging data ensuring that policies are not one size fits all, but tailored to the needs of all, including poor people, women, people with disabilities, children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a real threat to our democracy, the economy, and peace. The plan also focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation. Despite a clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice, 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that no one remains trapped in the circumstances of their birth. For too long, we failed to translate many of the promises we made to ourselves in the Constitution into reality. The Musa Plan seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's
The
tea and
Musa Plan
coffee
is
served, one
about
flight of
leveraging
stairs
data,
down. Please
ensuring
help
that
yourselves to
policies are
tea
not
and
one
coffee.
size fits all, but
And
tailored
let us
to the
please be
needs
back
of
here
all,
in 10 minutes.
including poor
Let us
people,
please be
women,
back here in
people with
10
disabilities,
minutes.
children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a
Ladies
real
and gentlemen,
threat
tea and
to our
coffee is
democracy,
served downstairs.
the economy,
Let
and
us please be back in
The plan
10
also
minutes.
focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation. Despite a clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice, 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that no one remains trapped in the circumstances of their birth. For too long, we failed to translate many of the promises we made to ourselves in the Constitution into reality. The Musa Plan seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands on deck. The Musa Plan is about leveraging data, ensuring that policies are not one size fits all, but tailored to the needs of all, including poor people, women, people with disabilities, children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a real threat to our democracy, the economy, and peace. The plan also focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation. Despite a clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice, 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that no one remains trapped in the circumstances of their birth. For too long, we failed to translate many of the promises we made to ourselves in the Constitution into reality. The Musa Plan seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands on deck. The Musa Plan is about leveraging data, ensuring that policies are not one size fits all, but tailored to the needs of all, including poor people, women, people with disabilities, children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a real threat to our democracy, the economy, and peace. The plan also focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation. Despite a clear constitutional commitment to advance social justice, 30 years into democracy, many South Africans are still not free. Not free from hunger, not free from poverty, not free from structural inequality and systemic injustices that continue to hold them back. The Musa Plan for Social Justice is an integrated catalytic plan of action aimed at accelerating the advancement of social justice by breaking the chains of poverty and inequality by 2030. It is a commitment to ensure that no one remains trapped in the circumstances of their birth. For too long, we failed to translate many of the promises we made to ourselves in the Constitution into reality. The Musa Plan seeks to change that. The multi-pronged approach involving policy reform, social accountability, resource mobilization, building state capacity, and strengthen democratic leadership. We need all hands on deck. The Musa Plan is about leveraging data, ensuring that policies are not one size fits all, but tailored to the needs of all, including poor people, women, people with disabilities, children, and rural communities. If we don't deal with poverty and inequality now, it will only get worse. And that poses a real threat to our democracy, the economy, and peace. The plan also focuses on building bridges between communities, healing divisions of the past. It's about creating real opportunities for social mobility for all while ensuring that the future is different from the past. We need you. Join hands with us to make this vision a reality. Together, we can accelerate the fight against poverty and inequality. Join us in the Musa Plan for Social Justice. Together, we will change the trajectory of this nation.